What's up, everybody? Pastor Rob here, and I have the Purtles. I just call them the Purtles. That's how I roll here. Guys, I am so glad that you guys came on, and those that are joining us, let me just give you a little bit of insight. They asked me, hey, Rob, how are we engaging people? Like, what can you do? I'm like, well, I know I need help. And so I have 3 little boys, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 7-month-old. I love them. So don't be confused. I do love them, but they are driving me insane. I thought that I would be good at this. And so I had this brilliant idea. Why not bring people in to ask them, hey, give me one thing or one area that either like it was tough and you conquered it, or where you feel that you're succeeding, that you could give advice, this parental tip in some way. So I have the Pearls with me. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Anybody that knows you loves you. You guys are amazing. You're so much fun. And I love spending time with your family. All your kids, each individual one is such a character. Like they have their own individual personality. And so I was not planning on doing this, but I'm going to throw this out as a funny story really quick before we start. Now, Callie, was there a time where you were blind for some reason because one of your children?
Guys, we can only laugh about that now, 2 years later. But I walked into my son and daughter having a Nerf war and literally Grisham bullseyed my cornea and took out my vision temporarily.
It went black, right? I mean, it was like
solid black.
For a while.
Solid black.
So, I mean, I guess that's not what you're probably going to talk about tonight, how not to take.
Oh, we thought it was over. This is it, right?
Grisham's just over the couch and he literally just went like this. Yeah. Obviously,
that was an incredible shot. I'm sorry about that, but man, can you give me props for that?
I know.
Right.
It was such a fluke, but it's true.
Well, so let me ask this question, and those that are listening, that are parents that are struggling in this season, and I know that you guys don't have it all together. There's areas where you're struggling in parenting and still figuring it out. So first, can you tell me the ages of all your kids?
Okay, let me answer that because that's an easy one. We have a daughter who's 15, Copeland Ruth. We have a son who is 13, Watson. We have a son who's 11, Grisham. And we have a daughter who is 9. So
her name is Callaway.
Oh, yes, Callaway.
She has a name as well.
I was passionate about those first 3.
Oh, 9. Her name changes.
Don't have to figure it out. We leave one off all the time.
Lots of personalities there. Love them all. Love you guys. So let's just get right to it. What's some advice, or what have you learned in parenting? What is something that's like, and you guys, maybe you each have a different perspective in this. So that's okay. So what's one thing that you think that you're winning in parenting?
I'll start. Is that okay?
Yes.
I think that one of the secret sauces to parenting, because I think there's many, but I think one of the things that at least is working for us, and we have 4 kids and we have a very busy life. We both work. They're all in school. We have another young person who lives with us. So we have 7 people in our home. There's a lot going on. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that we don't have it all together and life is crazy. But
yes,
the one thing I think that I lean on more than anything is a consistent backing up and asking the Holy Spirit, what is he doing?
Yeah.
For my kids, and just speak to me on behalf of my kids. And I know that sounds really spiritual. This is a church. This is a church podcast. But for example, a few weeks ago, I was driving home from work and I turned everything off and just think and spend time with the Lord. And I said, God, what are you, Holy Spirit, what are you saying about my kids? And he said, when you get home, this is what I felt in my spirit. When you get home, take each one of them individually, starting from oldest to youngest, for a lap around the neighborhood, which is about, it's about a 20-minute walk, and just ask them how it feels to be them at school. And I was like, okay, and simple. And so I did it. And the profound things that came out in those 25-minute walks, it cost me 100 minutes and it was like 100 degrees. But I listened to the Holy Spirit. And then the things that came out of that conversation have given me context for how I'm parenting even now. So I'm listening to one of my kids say, I'm coming out of my shell and I'm starting to connect with people and it's hard. And I'm listening to one of my kids say, everybody wants my attention all the time and I don't know how to share myself. And I have different things. One of them is really struggling with friendship. One of them, there's all kind of things, time management. And the Lord gave me so many things on that walk that came just from asking the question, how does it feel to be you? Which didn't even come from my own. I didn't conjure this question up, but the Lord told me to ask. But when I did and listened on a walk, which is very distracting on purpose, because it's like getting on the floor if you have little kids and playing Legos or coloring, you can have great conversation while you're doing something, because you're not sitting there going, tell me how you feel. You're doing something constructive and it lets guards down. So I think for me, if I were to say, hey, here's something really, really beneficial, it would be to ask the Holy Spirit, what are you saying about my kids, and guide me, and then just sort of like whatever you gut feeling you get, go with it. And I think you'll be astonished at the revelation you'll get with that. I think listening a whole lot for patterns, and for every kid's going to have eruption of emotion or isolation or whatever, but I'm looking for patterns, because patterns, there's always something more. The fruit of a behavior is always from the root of a heart issue. And so I try to parent my kids' hearts more than I parent their behavior. And a lot of times the Bible calls the heart the spirit. And so you need to be in tune with the Spirit of God so that you can recognize the fluctuations in the spirit of your kid.
Yeah. And one time this lady gave me this advice. I had 4 kids in 6 years, and some of you might even be in that season right now with just a bunch of little babies. And honestly, the only thing I was asking the Holy Spirit is like, what have I done? Like just chaos. And I went to this lady and I remember asking her, like, tell me how to survive this season, like how, not to mention enjoy it, but survive it, really, if I'm being honest. And her advice was so unreachable, if I'm just being frank. She was like, just have joy every day and be consistent in your discipline. And she said a few things that I was like, I think you're too far away from the season that I am in currently to speak into the hardship of my circumstance.
Like a rose-colored glasses, like she couldn't, like, do you remember how?
No, I know. You want to be like, listen, I know it wasn't that perfect. I know your kids now, and they weren't that perfect. But anyway, so I'll say that to say I never want to give advice without remembering the season that I learned it in and want to encourage others from. And so in that, I say there were a lot of hard years. There were a lot of years where, as a mom, your needs come all the way down to the end of the list, and just managing your emotions and all of those things. But I find that 2 things. If you determine a culture of your home that you will not forfeit or forego, joy and honor are the culture of our home. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, no matter how hard the day was, those are the things that I know my kids will feel, because that was the overarching theme. Now, some days were really hard, and some days we could only fake our way through it. But and I'm not talking about like sitting down at the end of every day and having a Bible study and saying the things that we're thankful for. We do that sometimes, but I'm talking about the other thing I was going to say is this, and it'll tie into that. It's funny because kids have a way, I bet even you, some of you watching, you say we did that all the time growing up, and I guarantee you probably only did it 5 or 6 times. Like, we went camping all the time growing up, and I might have gone camping 3 times. So the hear me when I say that God somehow multiplies the impact of the small things that you're doing to shape the culture of your home and to shape the culture of your children. So when they look back and they say, guys, hit or miss, we did devotions. Guess what? When they become 25, they're going to be like, my mom and dad made us do devotions every night or all the time, So don't be so hard on yourself to believe that you have to create these patterns that are going to make or break them. The overarching culture that's in your home, whether that be freedom, whether that be peace, whether that be joy, ask the Lord. I always say that the Lord has put you and your spouse together on purpose, and there is a banner over your marriage and over your house. Ask the Lord what's written on that banner. And whatever that is, determine with all your heart that that's going to be the culture that you raise your family in on the good days and the bad days, and let everything else fall under the category of grace. So that's my advice.
That's good, but that was awesome. Let me do a follow-up though. You said honor and joy, right? And you said at the end of the day, did they get that? And in my mind, when you said honor, I guess because mine are really young, I was expecting, okay, did they honor me?
No,
Yeah.
That's and I'm like, well, wait, but are you saying also, like, did they feel honored?
Let me.
That's a great question.
Yeah. So how we've cultivated honor in our home is as simple as this. We speak life. So we call out dishonor for what it is, how we speak to each other.
To any member of the family.
Those words, are you specific? Like, I mean, I'm as a parent, I'm just saying, like, yeah, because it can be all fluffy. This is great, okay, but practically, when you're in the moment and in survival mode of these young, you're like, how do I? So I like the theme. I like what you're saying, where you're saying you have to have a vision, basically. Like, what is the Holy Spirit saying for your home, and then stick to that. Keep it simple. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It's just I'm trying to like practically like, okay, how do we then implement?
So rather than saying what you the initial comprehension of honor is, am I being honored, right? I think that in the kingdom everything is upside down. So it starts with the father. If you have a father in your home, I think father honoring the mom with your words, because your kids are learning from your behaviors, and then honoring the children. So at night, a lot of times I'll just go in their bed. I've been calling my two sons, who are now 11 and 13, mighty men of God, since they didn't even know how to speak.
Yeah.
In their bed at night, I'll say, you're going to be a mighty man of God. You're a mighty man of God, honoring. And then just talking about why they're so amazing, and lifting up the things about them, not cush, but just saying, here's what I see in you, calling out the greatness in them. So here's something we do at our table. We'll take a seat at the end of the table.
Again, hit or miss.
Yeah, it's not every night, but we're talking about creating a culture, right?
Right.
So regularly we will take a seat at the table, and we will put someone in that seat, and then we will say, we call it like king or queen the table, and everyone will say, hey, let's all just say some things that we love about whoever it is. And so we're teaching our, at the time, 4-year-old to say, I love that you're my sister because you're so much fun, or whatever. And that's maybe all they got. But now, my 15-year-old knows how to honor, because she's been doing it since she was a child and a little kid. And so we'll do that, or we'll say, we do this thing called clouds and rainbows, and we say, what's the best thing that happened today? What's the worst thing that happened today? And it usually leads to a conversation where we get to speak life into someone who's not feeling it, right? So we get to come alongside and honor someone and tell them what we see that they're not seeing at the moment, because there's something greater in them than they can even see themselves. That's a culture of honor. So it doesn't mean that every time I come home, my kid's running on, they're like, oh, Father, and you're the greatest father ever. Right. Sometimes they don't even know I'm home, but we have a culture of honor. So when you have a culture, anything outside of the norm sticks out. Quickly. So if someone has a dishonorable attitude, because we've created this culture over years of practicing different things. I mean, we're guessing just like everybody else, we'll read a book. I don't, but we'll pray and ask the Lord, or we'll hear something else from someone else and put it into practice. But we're really just seeing what works for our family, because we have a unique dynamic just like everyone else. So we've tried, and we found that things that stick are small things often. So as we do plant these seeds often, at some point you look up and you have a bit of a harvest from that thing, and then anything that doesn't look like that sticks out.
Yeah. And we
So
discipline those things.
How would you do that? How would you approach? Are you using like the vernacular and saying, "Hey, you really dishonored your brother in this way,"
Mhm.
and then how do you discipline that action? Not just everything's a spanking or
Mhm.
everything's a timeout.
Yeah.
Is it according to the disobedience or?
Well, I generally will start with something like this. Remember, yeah, I spanked their tongue. I'm just kidding. I generally will start with remember that you have death and life in your tongue. Like you can build people up and you can tear them down. We'll start with something like corrective like that. And if it gets to the higher levels of discipline, we'll get there. But also I'm not a big like erupter of emotion. I talk to my kids and
again, we're further down the road than some of you. So this was years of training where we were pretty hard on what came out of their mouths at a young age, and we disciplined real heavy. Like even our kids say, guys, take it or leave it. But yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, we're so Southern. But for us, it was a matter of honor, because not of like knowing your place in the family, but to my parents, that was a big deal, things like that. So from a young age, we were training them on what we expected to come out of their mouths.
and correcting the heart. One thing that you'll find as you parent is if you'll not just try to correct behavior, and you'll actually get to the heart, you'll find that it works, because behavior is a result of the heart. And so I'll say, I have said this before. I have said, wow, something's going on in your heart, because what just came out of your mouth doesn't sound like the amazing person I know you to be. And we need to talk about that. And they'll break into tears over that comment, and then tell me what's in their heart, and we never deal with that again.
What about when they're at that real, I guess selfishly, y'all, I'm having all this people get free advice. That's why I'm doing this. When I have a 3 and 4, year old, and I'm like, well, how do I get to their heart? I think even what you said, Ben, where you're making time for each child, making them feel like a priority. And then Callie, when you were alone, you're very in tune with their heart. I mean, I can't see their heart. Like my wife, Tara, she can see their heart. All I'm seeing is the behavior. And I think it's so easy for me just to try to stop. I just want them to stop that behavior.
Yeah.
So how do you, at a young age, deal with the heart? Are you interceding? Like, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, always interceding. Still at an old age too.
Currently.
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk if you want to talk, just talk. But I think that for me, it's I always, and Callie can tell you, if any of my children were ever hurt when they were little, I would pick them up and I would go somewhere isolated. I don't know why. I just would always do that. And I always felt like if I could just get them to listen to me and and compassionately care for them and speak truth, and they're not, like, how kids are, like everything's a huge deal. If I can get them to a place where nobody else is around, none other kids, and not overreact, just get there, and we can get to a place where they're okay. And some of it is just because I want to help them so bad, but I think I do the same thing with behavioral issues too. Is if I can isolate them and have a conversation, even if they're 4 years old, and say, hey, what, when your brother did that, how did that make you feel? And it sounds like, I'm not trying to be like some therapist or something. Like, I also spanked them, but I'm saying, if I can get to the heart, even when I corrected with spanking, I would afterwards, or I would first explain why that is necessary, because of your choices, and then you acted, and now there's a consequence. But then I would always go back and say, and re-explain what the heart issue was, and then tell them how much I love them, and that I just see so much greater than how they're acting, And so I just don't. I mean, God doesn't. His goal is not to change our behavior, His goal is to change our heart, or he would have healed the paralytic and then forgiven him.
Right.
Yeah. I just want. Our behavior will change if our heart changes.
Yeah.
And also, you're training your kids. Like, a 4-year-old is in training, and with two brothers, they're and personalities are different, and they're fighting over everything and whatever. But Rob,
have grace for them. Yeah.
But Rob, I just want to say this in front of all 8 million people that are watching right now. I just want to say that you're doing a great job.
You and Tara both.
Yeah, like I watch you. One of the things that I would say to you taught me, and that's to get down low on the floor and play and have a lot of fun so that you can speak their language. And you did that. You're one of the people that did that with my kids before you even had kids. And that to me is a lesson I learned from you. And it was before you even had kids. And then I watched you speak the language of children in children's ministry.
Yes.
I think it's one thing to get on eye level and speak, but it's another thing to get on eye level in general and play and wrestle and roll around and have fun and be funny and goofy. And some people aren't like that, but everybody can get on a kid's level and remember what it was like to be a kid and just enjoy them.
Yeah.
And then you get access to their heart.
Well, I don't want to take too much time. I'm gonna look on questions here. I feel like I'm just gonna go wing on. I feel like, Callie, I need you to speak. This is gonna sound so spiritual. Are you ready? Okay. I want you to speak prophetically and encouraging to whoever, all these moms, especially, that are exhausted, that feel like every night that they're failing, that the enemy whispers to them, that even yourself, I think that to myself, I remember first year teaching, I remember crying because I was thinking these kids are not doing well in school because of me.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the stress of like stay-at-home moms. Even I think moms take it more personal too. So I feel like this is a key moment as well, to speak encouragement directly to moms as they're looking at you in your eyes, that you're gonna like encourage them. Do you have it in you? Holy Spirit's in you. I feel like you got it. I was not planning on this, but I feel like this is a moment. This is a right now moment. And so just the moms right now.
Well, it's funny. Fast forwarding, Ben and I and you, Rob, we were just talking about how this season of my life has been really challenging for me because when I had little kids, I learned to navigate those crazy years to the best of my ability, and I had it down. Like I was exhausted for years, but at the same time, I thrived because I'm a workhorse, and I was just like, I'm gonna get this done, and I really found that while it was hard, it was more to my strengths. So this season of my life where the relational part has really had to kick into high gear. And like, I found myself thinking not that long ago, if I don't go engage with my child, I will not have a real conversation with them for weeks at a time because they don't need me the way that they used to. But in navigating that, I've had to trust that the Lord is going to make good on the sowing of those very hard years. And where there is massive, I was thinking about this conversation and I remembered the betrayal of every baby that I had said dada first. Can I get a witness, moms? Every baby, you're like working yourself to the bone, feeding them all night long, and they go and say dada first. This betrayal is sort of like, it's kind of where it's a sacrifice and it's a surrender, and it's just this moment of like, God, will you give me back the years that I've sowed the best parts of myself into these 4 things that won't even remember? And I promise you that you will get those years back in abundance, moms who are tired. But also, I want to say this. One of my favorite stories is the story of Hannah in the Bible. And it's not because she waited and she prayed for a baby. That's a whole nother miracle in and of itself. But Miss Beth Moore wrote a devotional one time about how what you see Samuel do when he goes before the high priest is he falls on his face as a 3-year-old boy or as a 4-year-old boy, just having been, weaned and come up underneath his mom. And she turns him over to the Lord. And The only reason he knew to fall on his face before that high priest is because he saw his mama do it. And there are days where they got nothing else from me. And there are days where, Mom, you feel like you are giving them nothing else, but you fall on your face and you say, God, I praise you. I thank you for my children. God, you have to meet me in this place. The sacrifice is so hard, but the fruit of your child's life will be that they know how to fall on their face before the Lord and worship him with all their heart, because they've seen their moms do it. And I promise you, the harvest of your life will be that they will come back around. And not only will they be grateful for the sacrifice of those years, I believe that the relationship will be sweeter, because I think that the Lord reminds them of what you've given to raise them. I honestly do. And I'm counting on that promise. The Lord whispered that in my heart a long time ago. And so I just encourage you, on the days where you feel like all you can do is fall before the Lord and say, I have nothing left to give. That is a beautiful place of surrender. And I guarantee you that if that's all you teach your children, to surrender their lives before the Lord, you've done a heck of a job. So be encouraged.
Amen. Final words, Ben. I don't see a lot of questions except for just prayers, and this is tough, and just glad to be on here. So Ben, any final words that you want to encourage dads and whatever stage they're in?
Just number one, did you notice how Callie is like in the middle of the screen and then I'm like over here? Because she just
excited.
She completely took over. I was like, I'm just gonna be over here, guys.
That's it.
Totally fine.
Tag team. That's parenting. You tag team.
So no. So yeah, I think that there's a few things, like for me, I would say that I've had an interesting journey of being a father, because if you're a man and you're watching this, our insecurities play out totally different. I think for women in general, I mean, you can't generalize everything, but there's a lot of their insecurities. You're going to know what they are, but a man will really mask his with what seems like his strength or power. What it really is, it's fear. And I just noticed growing up that a lot of the men in my life would, when it was felt like the perfect opportunity for someone to minister to the part of me that was vulnerable, they would kind of say something like, just pull yourself together, we got to straighten up, stuff like that, And so I think that for me, to you guys out there that are just going like, I don't know what to do, I would say, with the very same sentiment, that's a great statement, because God lifts up the humble. Yeah. And if you say, I don't know what to do, Lord, show me, I believe that he'll show you. And I think that most of the time he shows you, he'll show you through you. Because if you'll go in with the attitude of, I'm just going to give it my best shot, I think that God will really honor that. So here's something I've learned that I will pass on to you guys. Be the opposite of what the world says is like a macho guy to your kids. Mm-hmm. Be strong, those things, yes, and protect and provide and all those things. But my kids know that I cry. My kids know that I fail, because I ask for their forgiveness a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I've sat on the edge of my son Grisham's bed and said, buddy, I messed up and I'm so sorry. I overreacted, or I reacted before I thought. And he's like, it's okay, Dad. And I'm like, I just need you to forgive me. And he says, of course, but what I do know is one day he's going to know how to ask for forgiveness. Yeah. And that he's going to know that his dad wasn't putting on a front when he realizes that dad wasn't perfect. That when you realize that, wow, my dad, there's that point, I think, in a man's life where you go, yeah, wow, I really admire my dad. This is hard, but I want my sons to say, I know that it's going to be hard, and I know that I'm going to mess up, but I know how to ask for forgiveness and move forward. And so I want to say to men, I think that one of the beautiful things I've learned is vulnerability and transparency with your children is an act of strength.
Mhm.
And nobody will tell you that,
Yeah.
because leadership has to be strong. And I think sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask your kid to forgive you when you mess up. So I think that's something I've learned that I would pass on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really good.
I want to say one more thing if we have just a few seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to cast, I never want anyone to think that we have this all figured out. So I want to take you back to
You're shifting into the middle. I see that. Yeah. Okay. It is happening.
here it comes.
I'll be back here.
No, I'm gonna tell the story about asking you to not fix your plate. I want to make sure we're gonna honor here, but
What is it? I don't know this
if
term.
that you just stop, I'll stop. But okay, so going back to those really small years, because I could do it better, faster, and more time efficient, I was constantly like just being like, I'll do it. I enabled Ben to not help to the degree that some wives know already how to ask for that amount of help. I did not know how to ask for help. So this is on me. And I say that with all sincerity and all humility. About 10 years into our marriage, you know, like I had 4 kids and we were going through a buffet line one time. And I had 4 plates in my hand and I was just like making all of the plates, cutting up all the food. And by the time that I made all 4 plates, Ben was coming back around for seconds. And it dawned on me, I'm like, why do I have 4 plates in my hand? He is on his 2nd plate and I have never asked him for 1 second of help. And I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, you have got to stop in disabling him from being the dad that he's supposed to be, which is to serve his family and also to be my helpmate in those young years. So I will say that I sat on that. I think wives, that's really important. In a moment of frustration, sometimes we can't help but spout off. But if I would have in that moment been like, can you just please help me make the plates for the kids? The conversation would have been so explosive and not good. But a few days later, I sat Ben down and I said, there's a few things that I want you to know that I haven't said out loud. It wasn't so much that resentment had been built up. I just was finally aware that I was not asking. And I asked for help. Okay, so number 1, I give you permission to ask for help in a way that isn't aggressive or
An honoring way.
In an honoring way.
Joy filled.
But I'm taking credit because the Holy Spirit intervened, and I feel like that day Ben stepped into a level of fatherhood that he had not stepped into before because I positioned him with my request for help in a different way. And in that day, he saw me differently and he saw the way that he treated my kids differently. And the way he served my family changed from that day forward. To which I say all the way back to what you were saying, and this was before the call, but like, it's a perfect partnership. If you communicate your need, you ask for help in a way that isn't demeaning or controlling or even, just demanding. And you'd say like, how are you doing? How can I help you with what you feel like you're carrying for the kids right now? How am I doing? How can I help you carry what you're carrying for the kids right now? So that gives and takes in these relational years where you're building and calling out purpose and calling out identity, and in those formative years where you're cutting up plates of food and wiping butts all day. So it's both. How can I support the demand? And I think that comes with honest conversations and asking for help. Ask for help. Those
so
are my
good. You guys have done, no, you have a lot. I'm like, I'm gonna rewatch this again and again and again to get this. And so I know Tara will too. She's actually tending to the boys right now.
Yeah, I'm
so they're not going to
Can I say one more thing?
we're house sitting.
We're the queens and kings of
So
one more thing.
even with that being said, that she's tending to the boys right now, on the back side of this screen, all 4 of my kids are doing different things. And I said, hey, make sure you keep your volume down because we're going to be on this call. And that's really not that far away for all you guys. It's not far away because 4 or 5 years ago, I would have been like, hey, we have to go to like rent a hotel room just to have this call, you know?
Right.
But my point is,
upstairs around the corner and supposed to be sleeping and I have to get
Yeah.
soundproof.
you're right. But my point is that it's not that far away. Just do your best today.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure that somebody could say, hey, I remember when my kids were in the house, and we don't know what it feels like for your kid. We don't know what it feels like to not have your kids in the house, but that's coming too, you know? So, but you're in a chapter of a long story.
Yes.
And it comes to an end, and then a new chapter begins. And so just rely on the Lord and follow with faithfulness and forgive yourself and get up when you fall.
Yes.
And I think that God will compound the interest
Yes.
on your faithfulness and your dependence on him.
Awesome. Well, thank you to all the parents that have been watching this, and just an encouragement to speak over myself and all of you. The days are long, but the years are short.
Right.
So time's going to go fast. When you look back, you know, you might be on a wheelchair, and I'm just kidding, but it's like, it's great. It's such an honor to be a parent, and just God trusts us. He trusts us with these humans. And he specifically had each child to be in your life for you to be an impact. And so he's not going to hang us out there to dry, and he's there to support us, to be with us, to speak to us if we give space for him to do so, and just working as a team. So thank you, Pearls, for being here. Thank you everyone that's watching. If you have any questions or ideas, each couple, each week, every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, I'm going to have a different couple and give where they're winning in this area. And so I hope you guys connect, join in, and really connect with other parents as well. Don't do this alone. So if you need to find a group, even if it's just with one other couple, call it a group.
Yes.
And you guys get together and talk to each other. And it's not just a complaining session, but it's a prayer session at the end of it, and saying, God's got it. He's with us. And so thank you, Pirtles. Thank you, everyone that's watching. And we love you. You can do this. God is with you.
Yes.
See you guys later.
Bye.